Welcome back. I have Bashar Al Natoor calling in from Dubai right now with me. He is, of course, the global head of Islamic finance at Fitch Ratings. Bashar, one development that I want to talk about maybe is on the switch between LIBOR and the SOFR, or the Secured Overnight Financing Rate. I understand it's going to take place next year. Do you think that it's still going to take place, or because of the COVID situation and all that, people might not want to see this happening right now?
I mean, I will not speculate on the timing and if there's going to be delay or not. But I think what is maybe interesting for the Islamic finance industry itself is it going to be facing the same challenges or different challenges? And I think that is something that we've addressed, as you correctly highlighted, in a study recently, in a research that we published about how much of the Sukuk market is going to be impacted by this transition. And what we found actually is most of the Sukuk that we rate is actually the international Sukuk rather than the local Sukuk. So more than 90% is actually in US dollar. And most of that is actually on fixed rate. So it does not use floating rate. So the actual impact on these Sukuk is not much. So in totality, in our rated portfolio, as we look at this, it's not going to be having a big impact on the Sukuk side of things. Now, if you move to the financial institutions and the financing and the local issuances, I think you'll have a fragmented story. And each country will have a difference. So there is some countries that Malaysia that already have their own benchmarks for Islamic finance, for example, and for their own Sukuk. There is some countries that did not even start the process. So whether the impact going to be is in a year's time or 2 years' time, I think the impact is going to be there. So what is more important is seeing people, are they proactive? Are they exposed? How much they're exposed and what they're doing about it. And I think this is something that will transform in the coming few months.
What about the Sharia scholar divergence? Are they still splitting hairs, or are people getting more accustomed to the kind of different views that different jurisdictions have? Are we going to see some form of uniformity in terms of Sharia approval coming across, not just between inter-region like GCC, but perhaps global as well, Malaysia and GCC and many other countries around the globe?
An excellent question, as usual, for an industry that has been facing this question for more than a decade, as you know. So I think, there has been a lot of initiatives, and we've seen a very recent initiatives even in the UAE that is trying to talk and have an international Sharia standard, which is based on IUFA standards. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it has to do with adoptions, and it has to do with acceptance, and it has to do with being enforced in these countries. So for example, if you look at something that is issued in Saudi Arabia, what even UAE accept that? Or if something is issued in Malaysia, with Malaysia, that issue, I think, is not going to disappear in the medium term. Yes, we've seen initiatives before. We've seen these initiatives. Some of them are the IFSB, which is actually in Malaysia. Yeah. You have IOFI. Still, it is, yes, it's having some improvement, but it's not to the level that is not causing this issue to be a limitation. And when you talk about standardization, just quickly, many people talk about standardization, but maybe just for me to explain what is standardization. It has 5 key elements. You have the regulatory environment, you have the product environment that needs to be unified, you have accounting standards, and you have Sharia, and lastly, you have the enforceability and the legal systems that you need to connect, whether on a local or regional or international level. We are still seeing lack of standardization even on local levels. You have some countries where you have one transactions that has one conventional tranche and 2 Islamic tranches, because the local banks themselves saying one of them is accepting it from a Sharia point of view and the other is not. And thus you have 2 Islamic tranches just because of that on a local level. So I don't think we are even close to the international level, although there has been some initiatives and they're interesting to watch, but let's see their success.
Okay, Bashar, we have about 2 or 3 minutes left. What would be some of your thoughts moving forward? Just general ideas because of the COVID. How's life at home? With the beard and all that. I'm sure you have some views on the situation right now.
I think, I mean, to be very honest,
It is sunnah, by the way, so it's good.
yes, hopefully we'll get the ajr for it. But the thing is, it's definitely having an impact. But what we're seeing, and even in the Islamic finance industry or even in Fitch, it is we all created a new norm. So we are functioning in a way that is almost similar to the previous way. I mean, from one organization to another, I think it's different. But in our cases and for our ratings, it is, and the review, it is really you take you have an when you have an intellectual side of things, relying on people doing their job, I think it's easier. And I think being able to adopt was easier. And I think we're grateful for that. We realize that there is more challenges for more people in different ways that you can say. So I don't think it is something that you need to look at in a lot of details. I think it's a period that will pass, whether short or long, but it will pass. It is what you've done in this period, it's what you've learned in this period, and what are you going to be doing in advance. And I think that applies definitely the same for the even Islamic industry, the Islamic finance industry. Are they going to be adopting more profit and loss sharing, for example? Are they going to tap into the waqf and zakah and have more social responsible financing? So it's not only on an individual level or an organization level, it is on an industry level. And if I'm talking about Islamic finance, is this going to see the industry moving to something that is more to what it's maqasid al-sharia rather than just focusing on the type of instruments that we see now.
Fantastic. Those are good notes to take heed of. And of course, every time you say things like zakat and wakaf, it's pretty interesting for us to actually take note of those kind of developments there. We have to end this conversation. Again, Bashar, mashallah, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. I know things are a little bit different. New norm means me doing this interviews in my house and my daughter's recording, being a camera woman behind the camera. So it's always fun to learn new skills as well. I wish you all the best. I wish your family all the best. And of course, Eid Mubarak to you too. That was Bashar Al Natoor, the Global Head of Islamic Finance at Fitch Ratings. If you've missed any part of this interview, just head on to astro.com. You can find these interviews there. Until next time, goodbye.